Go ahead.
I am Nsenga K, founder and editor of the Burton Wire. And my guest today are going to be Chetachi Egwu. Just hold on one second.
Are you hearing feedback?
YouTube windows closed. And windows closed. Bill.
Am I what?
Do you have any other windows?
No, just this one.
Okay, how about you, Chetachi?
No other windows open.
So
we
that's
should
fine.
be all good.
Me?
I think it's just you. We just hear. So you're hearing feedback?
Yeah.
And I hear the feedback from the feedback.
Okay, so you know what I'm gonna have to do? I'm gonna have to use headphones. That should cut it out. Let's see.
That's why she's our multimedia producer.
Hold on, let's see. And why can't I hear you guys?
Can you hear me now? We're gonna sound like a Verizon commercial in a
I'm
second.
not hearing you guys.
I can hear you clearly.
Hold on, but you can hear me, right?
Yeah, we can
Yes.
hear you.
Okay, give me just 2 seconds. We'll fix this.
Nsenga, I can hear you clearly now.
Oh, okay, thank you. Me too. There's no interference anymore.
Yeah, for some reason I'm not hearing you with the headphones in, and that's just technology. All right. Sound. Output.
We're gonna have a hell of a blooper.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm not hearing you.
I need a Kleenex. I'll be right back.
Of course, there would be too much like right. All right, let me go back to this and see if this will help. For me?
Can you hear me?
Again?
Can you hear me?
I can hear.
I'm not hearing you at all.
Take the headphones out. See if it's back right. See if it's working.
Take out the
Let me
headphones.
say that.
Yeah, it's not plugged in.
Okay.
Okay, it's all good on my end. I can hear.
We can hear you. You can't hear us?
I can't hear you guys.
Uh-oh.
And I can't stop this because I'm the one running it. Otherwise, I would stop it and come back in.
All right, how about we start our conversation with Phil, and then you pop in. How does that sound? Let me text you. I'm
Give
texting.
me just a second, and let's see if I can.
This is very odd because she is running it so that we can hear each other, but she can't.
Right.
All right. So anyway, let's just go ahead and start our conversation.
Okay.
Not hearing you.
Okay. Hold on one second. I'm texting you.
The minute I put the headphones in, it just conked out.
Okay.
Speak again for me, please.
Can you hear us now?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hear you. Yes.
And I can't hear you all at all. All right.
So people are watching. My friends
Give
are
me a
texting.
second.
My friends are texting.
Hurry up, Chetachi. Our 3 viewers are gonna leave us.
Terrell said hello, Miss.
All right. So we're gonna start. Chetachi, check your text. She is focused on the sound. Check your text.
Okay. Check my text.
No, Chetachi. Yeah, Chetachi. Chetachi.
Okay.
All right, so let's just go ahead and start.
Check.
Oh, you mean call?
No,
Check
you.
your phone.
No. Text.
Yeah, we could do that.
Just read. Yeah, you can do that too. You call in. Do that.
Okay. You know, can you do me a favor? Can you call me so that I can hear?
Yeah, sure. I'm doing it right now. That's what I was like. Check your text. Oops.
Hello?
All right, so can you hear us now?
Yeah, I can hear.
All right.
Phil, can you hear Phil?
Hello?
Yes, I can hear Phil.
Great.
Excellent. All right, so we're gonna get started officially. All right, so again, this is the Burton Wire. Thank you for our 3 people who have tuned in,
Right.
who sit through with us as we always figure out our technical hangups. We always work this out just so that you know that we're not completely crazy the day before, and it always works perfectly the day before, but then the day of, there's always something. So at any rate, we are talking about today, the Burton Wire is talking about today, the film, The Birth of a Nation, which of course has been a source of controversy. Today we're talking about this with Chetachi Egwu, who's a Ph.D. She's a film scholar. She also does a lot of social media. She's a social media guru also, who does live streaming. She has a show called MediaScope. So she is a PhD. I'm also a PhD. I'm actually a film scholar, which a lot of people don't know me as. They know me as a journalist and as a media critic and a media scholar, but film and Black film in particular is really my thing. And then, of course, there's Phil Branch, who is a filmmaker, and he has done incredible work. The Punani Diaries, one of my favorites. So if you like Born Again Virgin, Diaries. But he also has a film that has just been making its way across the country called In Search of Shaniqua, Searching for Shaniqua, I'm sorry, which is about, what's in a name. And he has been in like mega festivals this year. We're so proud of him. But he's also a filmmaker. He's an AFI graduate, of course, a Hamptonian. So, let's talk about this. I wrote an article recently for The Roots and got some hate and some love. But, it's important. And I wrote about Birth of a Nation and why people should see it despite the controversy surrounding director Nate Parker's alleged rape of 1999, where she was actually charged and found innocent or not guilty of the charge. A lot of people read the transcripts, and if you read the transcripts, what he did would be considered rape for sure in 2016. And then, Mr. Parker made the rounds, and let's just say his interviews, he did not come across as empathetic as some would have liked. And so there's been this big debate about, whether you can separate the artist from the art. A lot of people have raised Woody Allen, Roman Polanski, and a bunch of other Hollywood folks as examples. My position was that Hollywood is not a church. It's not a moral authority on anything, and that it's a pretty it's an industry that is marked by pretty repugnant practices in a lot of different ways. And so if we start cherry picking which directors we're going to support and not support based on these there's a certain criteria, then we have to be careful about that. I also believe that because Birth of a Nation is an indirect response to the 1915 Birth of a Nation from D.W. Griffith, and it is a film that is about Nat Turner, and I am a native Virginian, who I think is a very important figure who has not been talked about a lot outside of the state of Virginia and Black Afro-American or African-American studies or Africana studies courses. So I thought it was important that we see that story on film. So I'm going to stop hogging. I'd like you all to weigh in. I know Phil did see the film after I urged him to.
Right.
We are friends.
Right.
Chetachi is like, hell no, I'm still not seeing the film. I don't care what you say. So let's start with film since he's our guest.
Okay.
And we'll go to Chetachi and you all can weigh in. And text us with or tweet us with questions at the Burton Wire on Twitter.
So again, I had decided not to see it after initially deciding to see it. I think some years ago I had decided that I was over these stories unless there was going to be something new, right? Something that I didn't know, right? So I think Book of Negroes was something BET did about a year ago, which was a slave story, but something else that I had not heard of. I was happy to watch that because I learned something from it. But Birth of a Nation, I just felt like I read, so I didn't need to see this particular story. Like I didn't go see Selma, not because I don't like Ava. I read, right? So, and I want to see other things on screen, right, that I don't get to see. But then this whole controversy started, and the questions amongst friends and the public and in my classrooms about, separating Nate Parker from this work. I've had some really interesting discussions, and where I fell on the discussion was, I think people have the right to make that choice to say, you know, I don't like this, what this person may have done, and I'm not going to use the court of law to be my guide, right? Whether he was innocent or guilty, right? Because as I said to my students recently, you know, when George Zimmerman gets acquitted, you're like, you can't trust the system. You know, when somebody you like gets acquitted, it's like, he's innocent. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't have it really both ways that way. So for me, it was, you have to use your own guide, whether or not you feel as though you want to support someone's work who you dislike. Now, I think that goes into tricky territory, like you said, because if I look at my top 50 films, they probably are all awful people who made them, right? If we really know their stories. Some of my favorite actors, actresses, singers have all done awful things. So then if I'm not going to see Birth of a Nation, then I have to go through my iTunes and start deleting pretty much everything except for like Roberta Flack, you know, and that gets real tricky. That was my take on it was.
And somebody has tea on Roberta Flack.
Somebody. She did something. But I just felt like it gets tricky for me to have to go through that process. If I'm not going to do that for everybody, I wasn't going to do that for him in this instance.
Chetachi?
Yeah, so I decided that, just like Phil, I was tired of slavery stories. I was tired of the same narrative, and especially in the conditions that we're in now, those types of things can make you even more tired. So I decided, you know what? Before even this whole thing came out, I was like, yeah, it's an important story. I was like, but I don't know, I'm kind of slaved out. So I said, maybe I will wait till it comes on Netflix or something like that when I'm in the mood to do it. Because for me, I have to be in the mood to watch these types of films. And I don't let people dictate, oh, well, the story is important. Oh, no, I'm not in the mood. I don't feel like watching American History X. I'm not going to. So I was waiting for, that to come. And then this came about. Right. And I feel I'm conflicted. So I have not seen it yet because I am conflicted. Do I or can I put to the side the things that are terrible? And as you mentioned, simply because somebody is acquitted of something does not mean they did not do it or did not have a hand in it. So again, do I, turn a blind eye to all of that and enjoy the film for what it is, or take the film in for what it is? Or do I then look at the act, which to me was deplorable, and use that as a basis as to whether or not I'm going to see this film? And like you said, Nsenga, you're absolutely right. If we did that and cherry pick with every single person in Hollywood, which is a deplorable industry, it can be a deplorable place, then we would never see anything. But at the same time, should we go around funding people's misbehavior because of that? And so if you look at all the other things, if you look at, I don't dance to the music of R. Kelly. Whenever it comes on, I just stop. Why? Because of all the deplorable things that he has been shown to do. And for some reason, this is really not the first time that black men have not been given a pass. Definitely not. They're never given a pass. But it just seems to me that often when these things happen and when it's somebody of some acclaim, somehow they're given a pass. Somehow things are swept under the rug, or somehow things are made to be not as terrible as they are. And so that was what I was, and I'm still conflicted. So while I may not go see it in the theater, I may wait for it to, come to Netflix or something like that. I still don't know, because I just really feel, even though I was not there and I don't know, the fact that he did not seem very apologetic for whatever, even if you didn't do, you should be more remorseful for what happened. And it just seemed to me like this was a case of brushing it under the rug. So at that point, I was like, I don't know if I can support. So that's where I am.
Okay, yeah, so you all raised some very important questions, points rather. And it is, I think that one of the errors that was made on this side of Parker's team was that, you know, I think in an attempt to get out in front of the story, it didn't appear to be also an attempt to have some empathy. I think one of the, for the victim or survivor who's now deceased. But I don't know if they didn't do their due diligence or whatever, but I think the turn, because this information has been available, particularly for us who are journalists or media critics, scholars, all of us are professors, by the way, we should disclose that as well. You know, those of us who actually read.
Right, I mean.
Right. We've known this information. I interviewed Parker 2 years ago for Beyond the Lights, which was actually one of my favorite films. Gina Prince-Bythewood was one of my favorite directors.
That's right.
Amazing stories. And I knew it then. I didn't ask about it because I didn't think it was relevant to the story. And he was acquitted. So, you know, and he was 19 at the time or whatever. And I think as a college professor too, and I have to acknowledge that bias because I work with young people. I get to see young people turn into a lot of fabulous things from how they may come to me as a freshman to who they may become, you know, when I see them 10 years. I've been teaching for 16 years at the college level. So, you know, who they may become 10 years later. I mean, you'll just, it's amazing. Some of your A students, you'll be surprised at the downfall. Some of your D students, you know, you'll be surprised at the rise up. So I tend to have more of a different perspective when it comes to young people and kind of making something out of their lives, particularly when they've stumbled early. And I would say with Nate Parker, as a student athlete at Penn State, who's been charged with rape and he recovers from that and he hasn't had anything since then, and not to dispel this, I am a womanist feminist. I am a sexual assault survivor. So I don't have the whole, you know, just we shouldn't address it. I work on campaigns, social media campaigns against sexual assault. I worked at the city of Atlanta last year. So it's a very important cause to me. But I also have to think about, you know, when I'm on Facebook and I'll see, you know, my Facebook friends. I've had people send me messages saying like, when so-and-so comes up, you know, this person assaulted me in college. It scares me. Can you know, defriend this person? And so, you know, it makes me think about, yeah, like we have people who are our friends that we love and that, you know, we cherish and who are real friends that may or may not have done something in the past that we don't even know about. And then we're just supporting them, but they're a source of terror for someone else. And that's a nervous laugh. It's not a real laugh, but they're a source of terror for someone else. And so having said that, I'm not trying to say that Parker shouldn't be held accountable. I think he was. He did go through a court of law. He was acquitted. And I think since then, at least based on his professional record, because we don't know who he is, but based on his professional record, he has been committed to making good movies and doing good work. So I'm not saying that you can't boycott. I absolutely believe that why I know and understand why people are boycotting. I'm a media critic and a media scholar. I feel like I can't talk about stuff if I haven't seen it. So even with the R. Kelly thing, right? Because we do pop culture, you know, I love Mark Anthony Neal's work. And so Ricky Vincent, a lot of folks, I'm having a brain fart, but a lot of folks who do that kind of writing. So I listen to everything. And so that was, you know, my position is how are we really going to talk about it or talk about the film? Because a lot of people have stuff to say about the film and they haven't seen it if you're not going to actually see it. And if you're not going to.
Oh, yeah. I can't say two damns about the film because I haven't seen it. And I'm not, I don't doubt, as you were saying, that he is quality what he is. Exactly. I have not two damns to say about it because I haven't seen it. But I think it's important to note the conditions that would prevent people from wanting to see it. If that makes sense. And I could see both ends. I think my big thing is that there didn't seem to be a hell of a lot of forethought and remorse for something, especially you did this happened when you were 19.
Yes.
And by this point, at 30 something, there should be a lot of, wow, I really regret what happened with this. Again, even if this was or was not him, just a regret for what happened. And you shouldn't have to be told by your team, well, now you need to know. that should have come on its own. And I think that's what I looked at.
And then what? So here's my take on this. And I think part of it for me kind of stems from unrelated, watching Ava's documentary, The 13th, recently.
Yeah.
Blown away.
Must-see
film on Netflix is, if you peel back the layers far enough, there are systems in place. And I'm not a big conspiracy theorist person. This isn't about conspiracy, but it is about questioning, being critical about why things come up when they come up and come up in the way that they come up. So for me, you know, this is a time for Nate Parker, and I'm not a fan or whatever. I think he's talented. Like, he's a talented guy. But here's this man who now is in a position of power. He hadn't really been in that kind of position with his other films, right? So no one cares about Beyond the Lights. And well, he wasn't in control. No one cares about, was it Red Tails? All this other things. He's in it. But here he is, busting through the door, getting this $17 million deal. And it's like, to me, after watching The 13th and really thinking about sort of how systems are in place and how it's not like everyone colludes together to bring someone down, but also how it is really easy. The systems are already in place in Hollywood and every place else to kind of pick apart people of color when they have a moment of weakness, when there's a moment to kind of put them back in place. We've seen it happen in Hollywood time and time again to artists who have stepped out of line. Or have done something wrong and not being given the chance to go and become Iron Man after being an addict and falling asleep in someone else's house, or, you know, we don't necessarily get those chances. So for me, I can't question his empathy. I can't question his behavior. I can't question what happened. I have my feelings about it. It concerns me what happened. But at the same time, I can question the veracity at which this story came about at this time for this film. And that concerns me. I watched the film yesterday, and I had planned to watch it on Netflix or watch it when it came to like home video or whatever, to the home market. But I watched it yesterday, and I feel like we're missing a great opportunity with this film, right? To discuss religion. Like the rebellion was one thing. Like that was like 4 minutes at the end of the film, right?
Right.
Sorry. But the discussion about religion in this film would have been so critical, and about organizing and about community. The way that he wrote, I forget the direction, the writing, in the way that he talked about and kind of subtly questions the place of God and religion in African-American community, the power of organizing. It's pretty radical, right? And we're missing those discussions because of this incident. And now some of that is, you know, you reap what you sow, karma comes around, think like you can't have everything you want. But even though I'm not a conspiracy theorist, because I am not, I can't not acknowledge that this feels a little bit like putting him in his place. You know, now that doesn't mean that you can't feel how you feel about his empathy, but I mean the powers that let this story kind of roll into what it rolled into. I've seen them roll stories into other ways, right? Like that power can be used in two different directions, right? And for him, it didn't work that way. And, you know, I didn't go see it, but I saw it because Nsenga asked me to, and I wanted to have this discussion. And as a critic, I did want to see it and kind of see what the film was about on its own merits. And honestly, it was solid. It was a solid film. But the thing that stuck with me wasn't sort of the rebellion or the visuals. It was sort of the story about community organizing and religion. And unfortunately, we're not having those discussions. And this is a great time that we should be having these discussions, because we're meeting every Sunday at church and then walking away still with empty pockets, no home loans, you know, can't pay the car note, no political action. And I think this film kind of touches on that. And unfortunately, we won't have that discussion because no one's going to go see it. It's already in its third week, right? Yeah. So it's hit its peak, right? And hopefully people will see it at home, but missed opportunity. And I also think there were other things at play.
Yeah, because I mean, with the film, and you know, that was another reason. You know, aside from me being probably, my friends always say I'm a cynic and a critic. I don't know what that means, but aside from being a cynic, so I'm just like, I'm not understanding why people are expecting, you know, morality from Hollywood. But okay, you know, especially as it relates to Black people, because they just don't have a history of it. Right. And you can trace that back for 100 years. You know, before Nate Parker's Birth of a Nation, there was the birth of a race. That was in 1918, And that was a direct response to the birth of a nation. And that's when, you know, the Black film industry, and there was an industry, the Black film industry was working hand in hand with organizations like the NAACP to, you know, boycott and protest representations, and having the film The Birth of a Nation, D.W. Griffith's version, shown in the White House, the first film screen in the White House, you know, which, you know, sends all kinds of messages to people about the importance of the film, even though the content of the film was just horrible as it relates to a lot of people, not just Black people. But having said that, this particular Nate Parker's film, definitely the question of religion was important. I think it also talked about, or didn't talk about, but it represented Black love, Black people in love that fight the horrors and terror of slavery. And it actually didn't do a whole lot of showing of that horror and terror in the way that a film like from Brazil would, you know, for instance, like other cinemas, global cinemas, they really, I think, show really the terror and horror of slavery in a way that we do not in the United States, because we can't even talk about it, so you can't watch it. But, and yeah, also African culture, you know, that the people still embraced their African culture, their rituals, their stories, and how that kind of, not kind of, but very much intersected with American culture through this, you know, Black lens. And so that was just a form of power that we have, that we had. And so I think the representation of slavery is very different than what we've seen in some of our, with the exception of the Roots TV show, the reboot this year. I think that was just, they did a great job of that. And then I'm having a brain fart of the other show that's on that's really popular.
Underground.
Yes, which is, you know, I mean, it just really debunks a lot of myths about Black people in slavery and just being happy and content, or just being just totally powerless and not ever thinking about freedom and not wanting it. And, you know, how we just kind of embrace Christianity and, you know, this whole idea of liberation theology. That's what you're talking about, Phil, right? And there's so many scholars, Kelly Brown Douglas, you know, my friend who's a psychologist, Dr. Nyasha Grayman, they write about liberation theology and really what that means. And so I think that you're right, that there is a lot that happens or takes place in the film, which is a good film. I don't know if it was ever going to be an Oscar-worthy film. I think timing was good, right? So it comes out when it's Oscar So White, it's Sundance. You know, I think it just, everything kind of hit where it needed to hit in order for it to get that big deal from Fox. But what is important about the film is the issues that are raised and the debunking of these myths about, you know, Black folks just not having any power or agency in their lives during this really traumatic and horrible 400-year period. And that's nervous laughter again. But 400 years of really enslavement. So I don't know if that outweighs, I don't know how we weighed it, you know, because I went to see it really because I'm a media scholar and critic. I cannot not see the film. But I don't think if I was, I don't know if I would have seen the film either, based on all the other hoopla, tomfoolery, I don't know what to call it, but the, you know, controversy around it. And I love that you also raised the point, and I'm gonna stop talking, raised the point about, you know, putting, you know, Nate Parker in place, because I feel some of that as well. I think it's impossible not to see that. And some people are like, yeah, he deserves to be put in his place. He needs to be put in his place from a lot of perspectives. But, you know, that you have this dynamic Black man, and he is dynamic, all right? He's talented. Like I said, I interviewed him. He's thoughtful, he's critical.
So we're not supposed to support his summer institute either that he has?
Well, exactly. Are they supposed to turn back the money?
Right. He has this, what is that, Wiley College?
Yeah, Wiley College. Are we supposed to now go back, and we're not supposed to support, you know, X-Men even. The director there was embroiled in some scandal. It's just, I just think that as someone who loves Black culture, in addition to Black film, that outweighs anything else for me. The need for us to really have these discussions and to see it in film is important. It just outweighs it.
So can I ask a question?
Yeah.
is it the fact that all of this came up, or this film came up in the condition that we currently are in, plus the fact that we often support things that are Black projects, often to a fault, even if they're not good, it's because they're Black that we're supporting them. So I'm not saying that's the case with that, but do you think that there is some of that with this film?
Yeah, absolutely. But I think we should. Queen of Cotway. I'm writing a piece right now. When I get off, I gotta meet my root deadline. I'm writing a piece right now. Like this is my problem with us, with Black folks. We say we want one thing, but then when we have it, we don't support it either. All right. So Queen of Cotway, to me, the biggest like FU to Nate Parker, if you're not going to go see the film, is then go see Queen of Cotway. It's Black film. It's Ugandan, African people. A young, fantastic actress. We've got Academy Award winning Lupita Nyong'o. I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. Forgive me. And David Oyelowo, who's an Academy nominated actor. I interviewed him. I'm sorry, Oyelowo. I think that's the correct pronunciation. And right, that's correct, right?
Yeah, you know I have to have you.
Yeah, check me. Like check me whenever you're ready. And so you have these two people, and then you have the story about hope. You have the story about, without giving any spoilers, really changing your life through strategy. And it's good acting, it's good writing, it's good performances, it's Black people at our best, and it's out of theaters. It's out of theaters. And so this is my position, right? Yeah, sometimes you should go support Black films, because if we don't go and they don't have the box office receipts, they're not going to be seen. I think there is some of that, but I think that there's validity to that. We go see everything else. You know, Black people, Black audiences don't only go see Black films. We go see everything. We're 33% of the movie going audience, right? So I'm not saying because you're Black, you should only go see Black films. But yes, if you want to see Black films that are not, you know, something that you might oppose, that are not full of violence and gore, and if you're tired of plantation films, or you're tired of hood films, or you're tired of Medea films, you know, the genres that are always going to be made because they make money, because people go out to see them in droves, then you got to go see the other stuff too. And so that is a really important point. Like,
I'm exhausted.
Nation is a problem. Us going to see Queen of Cotway is a problem. Us not going to see Southside with You is a problem.
But I'm exhausted. I think I agree with you like 90% of that, right?
That's right, because I'm not going to feed you again if you don't.
Right. But it's like, I have stopped, you know, it used to be like, you know, opening weekend, check your tickets, make sure they didn't sell you a ticket to the Jennifer Aniston movie, like all that pressure. I just want to go eat popcorn and chill, right? And I have to have all this pressure, this social pressure. I'm uplifting the race to go see Kevin Hart's next movie, or whoever, or Queen of Cotwell, or whatever it is. I think it gets to be too much for me. I've taken to go see what you want to see, right? Go see what you want to see. But then I think us as scholars, producers, filmmakers need to be thinking about how did we get here where we don't support these films, right? Because I think something else, because it's not as simple as going to see these movies. There's a reason why we're not interested in these films. There's a reason why even on TV, shows that have nuance and are interesting with Black characters sometimes don't connect, right? We're seeing a difference with Netflix and Hulu, because people can, you know, they don't need the numbers in the same way. Mm-hmm. But and it's sad. Moonlight, which I'm looking forward to seeing, I haven't seen yet. Yes. Opening weekend, I'm going to be there because I want to see it. And that feels good, to be there because you want to see the film. What was the one, Red Tails? I thought I was going to get locked up if I didn't go see Red Tails. It was like, go see it. They had to use his own money, and, you know, 40 acres and a mule. Like, it was such a, the guilt shaming to see Red Tails was ridiculous. Like, that was the biggest pile-on ever. But I just kind of feel like there are so many ways to create and display and distribute content that if you're a filmmaker or an audience member who's looking for content that is outside, I don't need Disney to tell me my stories at this point. I don't expect them to. So I don't want to give them money as sort of a pity. Oh, thanks for this. Maybe I'll get 1-2 years later that I actually want to see. I kind of feel like I am literally tired of that. And I think because of Netflix and Hulu and YouTube, I know with my film Searching for Shaniqua, I've been, you do the festivals and then I'm waiting around for, some larger company to kind of give me a deal that I like. And then, I was listening to Solange's CD recently, and Master P was talking, and he has little interludes, and he said, if the white man give you $1 million, I must be worth 40 or 50, right? And I started thinking, I'm just going to distribute this myself, pop the trunk, do it myself. The people who want to see this film have found a way to see it, right? I'm getting emails, and I just kind of feel like the audience is there. We have to cultivate it differently. I wrote a piece about this in Shadow and Act a couple of years ago that Ava co-signed. This is years ago. It was just about, we can't expect people to just go to a movie theater and sit and watch. We have to cultivate audiences differently. They have to be events. We have to be more thoughtful because they're not showing up in the same ways. And my students don't go to the movies, period. Yeah, they don't.
Right.
So what is a movie-going experience for someone now? Not for us. We went to the movies to go see Love Jones and things like that. We went. My students aren't doing that. So what is what is a theater experience going to be now? And we can't keep shaming people for something that we know isn't going to happen. They go see Fast and the Furious, and every 1 million people go see that the first weekend. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, they're choosing to watch content in other places. So how do we develop those audiences in a way so we don't have to keep telling people, if you don't go see this, you'll never get another one? There has to be, we need a new model, I think.
Yeah.
That's designed for us, by us, FUBU. So
I absolutely agree, because there are so many different ways of distributing content now. There are actually more platforms than there is enough content to fill them. So there's no reason to have to use the same old model, because it doesn't work. And you're absolutely right. Students are not going to the film house, to the movies, right? To the theaters like we do. And we're not even going to the theaters. I mean, if you think about the fact of the proposal for the screening room, where you would have that box on top of your television for about, $200, and for $50 a pop, you can get a movie the same night it opens. So even though I'm like, what the hell, I'm not doing that, I bet you there are people who will do that. Mm-hmm. So, we're really needing to look to a new paradigm in terms of getting content seen. And I think that really includes filmmakers and content creators of color. This is the best time for content creators in history.
Right.
Right. No, I completely agree with you. But I just want to say, and I think you're right, Phil, because I'm actually thinking about it a lot differently. Because, with Love Jones, like in the black film boom in the 1990s, I mean, we were organizing around those films.
We showed up.
We showed up. We knew we had to go first day.
Absolutely.
It was like, I'll go first weekend. We're like, no, we're going to go on Friday, because, we never know. We were checking our receipts. We were doing all of this because we wanted to make sure that black films continue to be seen in as many venues as possible. And so now it is different. I agree with you. It is different. And we definitely, I just interviewed Issa Rae, who came off of Miss Adventures of the Black Girl and now has a show on HBO. And we got Donald Glover with ATL, which is I love
awesome.
Amazing show. So TV also just come around. Like, there's so much great content. Luke Cage on Netflix. I mean, I think I almost lost my job trying to finish those 13 episodes.
Right.
I didn't. Especially the first 6 episodes. But, there's so many ways of watching and thinking about things. But I have to say this, though.
Okay.
So the theater, that is an experience. And it is a different type of experience.
It is.
Right? And I think China kind of mastered it like 10 years ago when they started just dumping everything out in the market at the same time. So 10 years ago, more than that, actually, in China, you could, when the movie came out, you could see it in the theater. You could watch it on your phone. You could watch it on your laptop. You could order it on demand. You could see it in a cyber cafe. They figured out that people who want to watch film were going to watch it however they want to, whenever they want to.
Right.
So instead of, having these tiered releases where it's like, okay, we're going to do New York and LA. This is what they're doing in Moonlight. New York and LA on Friday, the 21st, and then we're going to have it all over on the 28th, and then it'll be available on Netflix this time, or will be available on cable this time, and those times have gotten shorter. They just dump it all out at one time, and people will watch it the way they want to watch it.
Right.
And I think that that's a good model to aspire to, because you still get to keep all the money, right? People are going to see it however they're going to see it. And so why hold off when you can give it to them all at one time? So I think that's a good model when you were talking about models that might work. I think China has it. I also have to say that if we do want to see, and I go to the movies a lot. So I want to see different types of film, including Black film, in theaters. And so I do go and support Black films. And I do want to see all of them because I'm just intellectually curious and I'm a scholar. But I do go and support the Black films because I actually want to see them in the theater. I want to have popcorn. I want to be in the big dark space and, see the big screen and have, my ears popping when I leave because it's so loud. And I don't think that should be necessarily negated because we have all of this new technology and different ways of getting content and creating content. And so I do want to see films like Birth of a Nation and Queen of Katwe and Southside with You and other films that are not necessarily blockbuster material, but they are really good, character-driven, thoughtful films. I still want to see those in the theaters. And so I don't know what the answer is, right? Other than telling people, please go see the movie. If you're gonna go to the movies, if you're gonna spend all that money, because it's a lot of money to go to the movies, then please consider, look for that little Black film, look for that documentary on Maya Angelou, and think about going to see that if you're gonna wait and see Birth of a Nation on Netflix, or wait and see Queen of Conway on HBO or what have you. Consider looking for films like Searching for Shaniqua, for instance. That might have a limited, that's really what I feel. So I don't want it to be, like you say, guilting and shaming, but really about supporting these films so that we at least stand a chance in the industry. We stand a chance.
No, I agree with 100% in terms of support. I think, like with Shaniqua, in terms of the model piece, doing a limited release in the theater where I've been invited to go and making it an event where people come, I'm there. I'm traveling. It's like old school. I'm traveling with the film, right? And it's fun for me to meet people, to have. It's been fun for people to have the discussion. So I'm trying to figure out a way to and I think support, but I struggled. I used to go to the movies 2 or 3 times a week. That was the time, and then it became once a week, and then now it's rare. I have babies now, so it's getting out to the movies is difficult. But I have to say that there are very few things, let's say commercially released, 23,000 theaters, that I'm interested in from us. Very little, and not because I think it's bad. I'm just not interested in it. And I don't know if that's an age thing. I hope not. But if it's going to be at the Charles Theater or Independent Theater, those kind of movies that are coming through, I do get there to support those films because I know those films had to work really hard to get there.
Yes. All right, so let's have final comments. Chetachi, what are your final thoughts about the topic? Let's bring it back around. I guess in the context of Black film, what are your final thoughts?
So there's no denying that the story is incredibly important, and I think I would leave it up to the individual to decide whether or not the case, the 1999 case, colors how they view him and thus the film. It's, film is such a subjective experience. I don't think that we can put one way of thinking about what somebody should think about the film or whether or not they should go see the film on people. Let it be an individual experience. And it might be my individual experience. I'm still debating.
All right.
Phil, thank you, Phil.
I think it's important to make personal choices, and within making those personal choices, be critical about where information is coming from to help you make that choice, right? So I think that with Nate Parker and this particular film, that I hope people, when it's all said and done, if they're going to make this choice too, and I think boycott is a strong word to not go see a movie, but if they're going to boycott, this / just not go see it. But if they're going to boycott this, and it's about the rape charges, it's about the sexual assault and how women are treated and made invisible, let's have a real discussion about that, because I'm for that. Because since this case became sort of widely known, what I've been sort of aware of is how much rape talk, sexual assault talk there is just on the radio. For the last 20 years, we've been dancing to it, doing the Cabbage Patch. We are not blinking, right? So for me, this could be a really great discussion about our artists and discussions about women's bodies and rape and sexual assault. So yeah, we boycotted this, but then we're going to go turn on the radio and then do the electric slide to songs that celebrate the thing that we're punishing Nate Parker for allegedly doing. So I'm having some trouble. I would love to have a larger discussion if we're going to have it.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. We definitely need to have a larger discussion about rape culture in our community, about caping, what I call caping, always having to, or feeling like we should protect our artists, regardless of what they do, because of what, systems are in place to punish them. And the fact that Black people in this country, male or female or trans, what have you, transgender, however you identify, if you're Black, you got Black skin, your experience is going to be different. And it's probably not going to be good when you're talking about any type of system or institution, I would argue. But having said that, I do think that there is definitely room for discussion. We need to have more. We'll do more of this on the Burton Wire, of course. I really think that we should still continue to support Black film, not in a guilt way, but, it takes a lot for films to be made. It's a hard process. 225 films come out a year. Most of them are crap in Hollywood. But there's a whole industry, independent film, where beautiful films are made all year round. So, just think about the ways in which you want to digest or ingest those films. Thank you for tuning in. We will be back later. Thank you, Phil Branch, and Chetachi Egwu, who's also the Burton Wire's multimedia producer. If you have any questions or follow-up, you can definitely hit us on Twitter at the Burton Wire or Instagram at the Burton Wire. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.
All right, thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.